let me put it that that was an option. I didn't exercise it. There were many factors, many circumstances. Um, Even the examples of interventions I made, I could do because I was there. I realized that there are bits and pieces of interventions one could make because it was me. If it was somebody else, they couldn't even take these steps. It was worth to be within and see what one could do. But to be candid with you, it's also easier said than done. There are cultural issues, there are cultural reasons. There was also, naive as I was, the start of a new political program, transition program, and so on. So things would come to an end anyway. So one stayed on to do what one could. No, some of the characterizations made of him are so far from the truth. General Abacha was a thorough person, very strategic person, a person who had an eye on details, an elephantine memory, great power of recall. And in council meetings and so on, he followed the discussions, drew an idea of the consensus, and went by it. I think his main concern, frankly, in governance was regime maintenance, because from day one, you know, he had this anti-June 12 protests. He had this barracking by the international community. Remember the oil price at the time. So he had internal security challenges and so on. And his focus on regime maintenance, not in terms of how his ministers worked or didn't work. I believe that any discomfort I had would have been more in terms of, oh, look, you know, there is no definite movement towards the restoration of democracy. And this may well be a military regime in perpetuity. I took steps to distance myself, publicly even, many public events organized. Both, all these youth yearn and all the self-succession programs and so on. I didn't participate. There was a small caucus that were working out the political program. I was asked to come for a meeting. I went once. I saw the direction in which they were going, and I never attended again. It was obvious by my body language and by my absence from the scene that, and my concentrating in delivering what I decided were the key things to do in the foreign ministry. Clearly, it was an impossible task to sell the government. So I concentrated on capacity building in the ministry, in institutional reforms in the ministry, for a future date. In the Ministry of Internal Affairs, I concentrated on prison reforms, on more humane treatment of detainees and prisoners, and in securing our borders and in empowering the paramilitary organizations like the civil defense, immigration, prison service, and so on. I concentrated in areas which would impact the services and the organizations by instituting reforms and so on. But general policy and so on, I distanced myself. But there was really no, certainly the perception of General Abacha himself, you know, I think is largely off the mark, given the situation he faced. And given, obviously, later on, the ambition he had to continue in office for longer than